welcome to another episode of Ask an Assistant, the podcast for executive assistants and the people that love us. I'm your host, Jess Lindgren. Let's get to work. This week's question comes from esteemed colleague Pam, who wrote in via askanassistant.com with the following question. Pam says, Jess, hello. I am searching for my next EA role, unfortunately affected by layoffs, and I'm wondering if you can share some resources on salary bands. Thanks. Pam, I don't love to hear that you find yourself in the market for a new role. However, I really hope that the process is swift and you land somewhere that you love quickly. In the meantime, let's talk about compensation expectations. Full disclosure, I have not been in the market for a job for over a decade. I am very happily and gainfully employed with my executive. We've been working together for 12 years. This is information from talking with colleagues in the executive assistant space, doing some research on my own. So you'll definitely want to do some research based on where you're located, what roles it is that you're looking to find as you're changing jobs. But hopefully, this is some information that'll get you started in the right direction. There are definitely several factors at play when it comes to your next salary, but at a high level, your location, your job title, and your research and negotiation skills are going to be the things that move you the furthest and fastest along. Jumping right in, your location. This can be as granular as the city that you live in. I know that Portland, Oregon, for example, has different tax rules than the rest of the state of Oregon. That's also somewhat true for New York. Like when I moved in 2021 from California to New York, I learned a lot about running a business in the state of California versus running a business in the state of New York. If my husband and I had moved to New York, the city, my employer would need to contribute to like my transit card and a couple other things. And then there are some things for New York State, like there's different workers' compensation is a big one, and I think that there's some other insurance policies depending on what part of the state you're in. But truly, it can be as granular as what city you live in. Definitely will vary based on what state you're in, and absolutely will be different based on what country you live in. If you live in the United States like I do, you definitely will experience very different salary offerings based on your physical location and or the location of the company where you hope to land a new role. States like California, New York, and Oregon are some of the states with the best employee wages and protections. Often, those companies will offer better benefits, which amounts to a better overall compensation package. If you happen to live in many European countries, Australia, and or Canada, you most likely have benefits that are not tied to your employment, along with strong, very strong employee protections and rights, but your salary may not be as high. You'll definitely experience even more varying compensation due to the company's physical location and their overall company or corporate compensation policies. Like I've seen a lot of job descriptions in recent years that stipulate one salary if you're in office versus another if you're remote. So like let's say you want to work at a company that's based in New York, the city, but you live in upstate New York, in Syracuse, central New York, if you will. Um, your cost of living is different if you live in New York, the city, versus a different part of the state. So, like, even though you're in New York State, you are going to technically be a remote employee. Your compensation package may be different based on where the company is and where you are. Some I've even seen, which is a really great practice. So if you happen to be a business owner or happen to be supporting a business owner and have an inroad to making this change at your company, I've seen some companies even offer an overall company salary floor, meaning that nobody makes less than a certain amount of money, which I think is a wonderful hiring practice. And most of the companies that I've seen offering a salary floor are in like the 70, 80 plus $1,000 a year range. So big thumbs up to companies that are doing that. Next up, your job title, both previous and desired title, will have a big effect on your salary expectations. If while you're in this career transition period, you are hoping to land a new job title, this can really contribute to a fairly generous bump in compensation. Let's say that you left a role as an administrative assistant and you're trying to move into an executive assistant role, an office coordinator, office manager type thing. That is going to come with a lot of change, all in terms of responsibilities, skill expectations, and hopefully compensation. If you want to stay at the same job title, like let's say you're a long-term executive assistant like I am and you're happy with that job title, your tenure is what will often help you move up in terms of overall compensation. And then finally, your personal research and negotiation skills play a huge part in your salary earnings as you land a new role. There's definitely several tools out there, and in the US, things are getting marginally better. Several states have passed laws mandating that salary ranges need to be published. Some companies try to circumvent this by listing a ridiculous range, like a range of $1 to $250,000. And it's like, yeah, I know it's going to fall somewhere in there, but give me a realistic expectation so I can come in with a realistic number. The more that people, i.e., job hunters, call out this as a crappy practice, because it is, the more companies will hopefully stop doing it. Of course, the laws are full of loopholes, like company size, industry, location, can all affect the mandatoriness of the salary disclosure. And people, again, like people who are looking for jobs or people who are keeping an eye out for friends that are looking for jobs, like we need to be calling this out so that eventually companies will hopefully learn that sharing salary information is helpful and will often yield better candidates, which in turn will cut down on the complexity of the hiring process. The hiring process, side note, we will talk about that in a future episode because, oh my gosh, I really do not envy anybody looking for a job in the year 2025. Things have gotten really out of hand when it comes to interviews. But sticking on topic here, no guarantees. That is my hope that the more we call out this behavior, the more it will change. But getting back to your personal research and negotiation skills, there are many different salary band tools available. I live in the United States, so I'm definitely sharing what are quite probably United States centric tools, but I'm hopeful that a light Google will yield information for your specific location. Levels.fyi, so like levels, like Mario, Super Mario, level one, level two, levels.fyi for your information. Levels.fyi is a tool that I just came across while researching this episode and honestly seems really promising for a lot of tools for the average job seeker, especially if you are hoping to land a role at a larger company or do just some basic job band research. Like it seems like a really good, really in depth tool and space to be doing some of that research. Indeed has definitely pulled up as a frontrunner in the salary band sphere, if you will. I also saw a post recently, and I mean, Reddit, whatever. Like, it's an echo chamber. It's people don't always necessarily tell the truth, whatever. But I saw a post recently on the executive assistant subreddit where someone was asking about where did you land your most recent job? And I think Indeed was kind of the number one place where people had said that they landed their most recent job. Whether that job was landed 2 weeks ago or 20 years ago, who's to say? But it did seem like Indeed was a really great place for both salary research and looking for new roles. I personally also like when I am looking for new jobs, which is not very often these days. But the last time I was looking for a new job, I definitely went company by company, job description by job description, and just took note of the roles that I wanted, roles that were available, and making my own chart of comparison. And actually going back a little bit to the mandatory salary disclosure piece, it may be technically employers have to, quote unquote, have to disclose the information on a job posting. But when they do that sneaky $1 to $500,000 or $250,000 thing, you can also reach out to the company and ask them to disclose the salary information to you directly. So if they're not making it like totally public and totally easily accessible, at the very least, it is also legal for you to call them up or email them up, because like who has a phone number and who answers their phone these days? But it's within your right to request that information if they're not being transparent on the job posting. The other tool that I found very helpful while I was searching is a blog post by Hasib Qureshi, and it is about his 10 rules for negotiating a job offer. The post does date back to 2016, but I gave it a read and it feels like really solid advice even here in 2025. And then I will also leave you here with this final thought, because if I keep going down this road, the episode is going to be half an hour long and nobody needs that. But be sure to consider total compensation. I am not a recruiter, I'm not an HR professional, so I don't know everything that goes into your total compensation. But things like company 401k matching, any equity, any bonuses, relocation packages, all of that can tie into your total overall compensation. So when you are looking for a new role or trying to negotiate a raise for yourself at your present company, take all of that into consideration and say, okay, this is how many dollars I make. This is how much the company pays for my benefits. This is how much the company gives me for 401k matching. This is how much I get in a bonus every year. And that can really help you as you are, especially if you're negotiating for a new role, but it can also be helpful to you come pay increase and or bonus time at your present role. And getting around to the end of the episode here, like the job market just sucks right now in 2025. Like everywhere, every industry, every location. You definitely want to go into any interview situation with as much information as you can at the ready. Read up on and practice negotiation skills, especially in a job hunting scenario. Like take any job interview that you can get. Ask a friend. It's just like being an actor and reading lines with somebody. Like ask a friend if they can kind of role play like they're the recruiter, they're the person hiring, you're the person trying to negotiate a job offer. Like practice it no matter what way you have access to or feels helpful to you. I personally just had the displeasure of negotiating with someone over the cost of a mani-pedi. Their prices were listed on their wall and agreed to before I even sat down. And as we were wrapping up, as my fingernails were still wet, they tried to talk me up about 25%. And I hated every minute of the interaction. I am a white woman from Minnesota. Negotiation is unpleasant to me in just about any situation. And for many of us, probably, 10 times worse in a job interview where you want and quite possibly need the role. No matter your situation, you still need and absolutely deserve to get paid fairly for your expertise and experience. Coming in with information and negotiation practice on your side can make all the difference. And that's all for this week. I really hope, as always, that you're all feeling happy, healthy, and hydrated as you can be. As always, leave your comments, questions, thoughts, and concerns for me at askanassistant.com. And until next week, take care.